Skip it up and that up.
So Nintendo president Reggie Fils-Aimé was at E3 2016 and he was interviewed by Bloomberg. And the interviewer asked him, how does Codename NX stack up against Sony and Microsoft's new systems, Scorpio and Neo? And this is what Reggie Fils-Aimé responded with. Take a look.
So now you know your competitors talked about their forthcoming, the Xbox and a new PlayStation. How do you think the NX console will stack up to them?
You know, for us, it's not about specs, it's not about teraflops, it's not about the horsepower of a particular system. For us, it's about the content. Nintendo is a content-focused company. We create entertainment that makes people smile. So for us, we're focused on bringing our best entertainment to both the Wii U as well as the NX in the future. So for us, whatever Microsoft and Sony are doing in terms of talking about new systems, that's for them to fight out in that red ocean. For us, we want to make sure we're bringing our best content forward. And right now, the reaction to Zelda has been more than we could have ever imagined.
Wow, that sounds so familiar. I wonder where I've heard that before.
The other challenge of this situation, though, is so Nintendo launches the Wii U. It's your first high-definition console. It's very high-powered. Now, 6 months to a year later, when your competitors' products come out, specs-wise, they show up a lot faster, a lot more memory. Like when you look at the numbers, they come out far ahead. How big a problem is that? Of well, we got out there first, so now our product looks maybe a little dated in comparison.
You know, the processing power of the hardware really doesn't matter. And I say that with confidence looking at the most recent generation of home consoles where the Wii, which the broad industry looked at and said, boy, this seems to be underpowered, but sold 100 million units globally. And the consumer saw the innovation of the Wii Remote and the active gameplay we offered. Even if you look at the generation before that, it was Sony's product that was underpowered compared to the other two home consoles, and yet they won that generation. So in the end, it comes down to the games. The games drive the install base. The games excite the consumer. And again, we feel very good about the games we have, not only from a first-party perspective, but from a third-party as well.
Yeah, Reggie, you said the same goddamn thing back at E3 2013 when Forbes was interviewing you. You said the same thing after the PS4 and Xbox One were announced. You said, oh, it's not about specs, it's about quality content. The Wii U will be just fine. Well, was the Wii U just fine, Reggie? No, it's your shittiest selling home console ever. And don't come at me with that weak sauce, that same line that all the Nintendo fans only say. I know what they're going to say. Oh, Rich, it's not about specs, it's not about hardware. The most powerful system, it was never the winner in previous console wars. Let's discuss that for a minute. Let's go all the way back to the 80s with the NES. When the NES was launched in the States, yes, Nintendo did revolutionize the home console industry, the gaming industry, okay? They got the States out of the gaming crash with the NES. But part of the reason for the NES's success was Nintendo had some pretty shady practices. The contracts they made third-party developers sign were draconian. They couldn't bring their games over to others. So if they had a third-party game released on the NES, they couldn't bring it over to other systems. So not only did Nintendo have powerful first-party titles, third-party devs, especially because the Nintendo was doing so well, would sign those contracts and the games would only be on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Literally, both third-party and first-party games, the only way you could really play them is on the Nintendo Entertainment System due to Nintendo's shady business practices back then. So consoles like the Sega Master System didn't have a chance. That's why the NES won that generation. Now let's go over to the 16-bit generation. When it came to the two main consoles, the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, I know they had like the 3DO and the Jaguar, and those were all fucking irrelevant. But the two main systems, the Super Nintendo was more powerful. So in that generation especially, that was null and void. Then when you go over, people always say, oh, well, Rich, the PlayStation was far less powerful than the N64. But the N64 had an Achilles heel. The N64 was cartridge-based, so games were more expensive to develop for it. They were more expensive to manufacture. And because technology was becoming much more advanced, developers wanted to make bigger, more expansive games. Where CDs at the time, which the PlayStation ran on, it ran on CD-ROMs, they had a lot more space and the games were cheaper to manufacture. That's why the PlayStation won that generation. And yes, it had awesome games too. But because of the fact that it was easier to make games for the PlayStation due to the fact that it had a CD-ROM drive, and it was cheaper to make games, and it was cheaper to manufacture games, that's why it won. Yes, the N64 was more powerful, but I could guarantee you something. If the N64 had a CD-ROM drive, I think the story during that generation would have been much different. But let's keep going. Now let's go on to the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, the original Xbox, and the GameCube. There was a bunch of variables here, but the GameCube, yes, was more powerful than the PlayStation 2, which outsold both the original Xbox and GameCube combined. But the GameCube screwed up in so many ways. Had a proprietary optical format which had nowhere near the same amount of storage as DVDs. It didn't have the same library as third-party games as the PS2 did because of the fact that the PS2 was selling well, so more devs made third-party games for the PlayStation 2. Even though online play was in its infancy, both the original Xbox and the PlayStation 2 embraced it more, where Nintendo was like, online gaming isn't really a thing. I think Nintendo may want to think back on that and realize how bad they screwed up with that prediction. And the PlayStation 2, due to the success of the PlayStation 1, built a huge fan base, and that was another reason why the PlayStation 2 succeeded. Now you're probably thinking, well, Rich, what about the original Xbox then? It was more powerful than the PS2 and GameCube. Yes, you're right, but that was Microsoft's first foray into making a gaming console. And people weren't trustworthy of the Xbox brand yet. That was a big thing. And it wasn't that, the PS2 wasn't as powerful, but it wasn't like a generation behind the original Xbox. It was less powerful, but it wasn't a whole step backwards like the Wii U was compared to the 360 and PS3. And like how I'm thinking now, the NX is going to be compared to the PS4 and Xbox One, or hell, maybe the PS4 Neo and Xbox One Project Scorpio. Now you're probably thinking the 7th generation. Rich, what about the Wii? The Wii was a full generation behind the 360 and PS3. It was sold on a gimmick. It was sold because of the motion controls. I remember people who wanted nothing to do with gaming going out and buying that thing. And you know what they did with it? You know what they did? They played Wii Sports and fucking never touched the thing again. I'm not saying there isn't other good games for the original Wii, but that's why it built such a fan base. That is why the Wii built such a fan base, because it was at a time before, right before smartphones. It came out before even the original iPhone was released, and it filled that casual void that nothing else was filling at the time. It was the right console at the right time, but honestly, Nintendo just got lucky. Nintendo got lucky with the Wii. No one really bought third-party games for the Wii. Games didn't sell minus first-party games on the Wii. People literally just bought that system, and after they played Wii Sports a couple times, it collected dust on their shelves. That was the thing I really want to bring up. Everyone brings up, the most powerful console never won a console war. But when you think about it, though, when the consoles are compared from generations in the past, minus like they would have like the weird things like the 3DO and the Jaguar, but those weren't even really competitors. But let's say the main consoles from the past, they were still, even though one may have superior hardware, they were still in the same generation of capabilities. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, okay, maybe the GameCube was more powerful than the PS2, but it wasn't like a generational leap. Or the Xbox was more powerful than both the GameCube and PS2, but it wasn't a generation difference. That's the problem. This is what Nintendo isn't getting. Yes, you could go by that philosophy, but with the Wii U really was a competitor hardware capability-wise with the 360 and PS3. It was not on the same level with the PS4 and Xbox One. And the thing about it is, yes, Reggie, I understand great games. It's all about the games. Games first and foremost all day. But people want to know they could have that variety. And the Wii U did not offer that. And that's why don't worry about it. We'll have great games. We'll have great content. Yeah, okay, great games and great content are important, but people want to know they could have everything. They want to know not everyone is like a nerd like me, okay, who's going to go out and buy every fucking system under the sun. A lot of people just buy one system and they look into it and say, okay, this one has the best games, the ones I'm looking to get, and it has, the good third-party support. I'm going to get the PS4. I'm going to get the Xbox One. They're not going to buy all three. And if they see, Wii U has great games, but they're not going to have like Call of Duty if I want to play it. Yes, God forbid I said Call of Duty. Or they're not going to have Dark Souls. They're not going to have Dark Souls 3. So they're going to stay away from your console because they're not going to buy 2 consoles because it's not in their budget. They're going to buy the one system that's going to give them everything. And you would think Nintendo, after the debacle, the disaster that was the Wii U, you would have learned, okay, yes, innovation is very important. Great games are very important. But you know what, too? We should have a capable system that competes with Sony and Microsoft, our competitors, so we could also get the good third-party games in there. So if someone wants to play Super Mario 3D World 2, they could play that, but they could also play Dark Souls 3. So they could also play the next Call of Duty. So they could play whatever the case may be. For some reason, there's only 2 games coming to my head right now, but you get the point. But it doesn't seem like they're learning, man. Look, I'm not going to deem Codename NX a failure because who knows? This industry is so fucking unpredictable. Maybe they do have some gimmick that's going to take over the industry by storm. I wouldn't put it past Nintendo either. But just what I'm hearing from Reggie, just the rumors that I'm hearing, it's like they've learned nothing. Nintendo still doesn't get it. And if they don't get it this time, they're not going to have another chance. Nintendo will become the next Sega. I don't care how much money they have in their bank. No one will ever trust them again. They'll just bleed money now until they run out. If the NX fails, no one's ever going to trust them again. I don't know, man. It's just a company that back in the 80s and 90s, they were so innovative. They were minus the shitty business practices I mentioned, but they really turned the gaming industry around. Look, I know the crash only happened in the States, but it was Nintendo bringing the United States back into gaming is what helped make the gaming industry flourish worldwide. I think if gaming failed in the States and Nintendo didn't come save it in the States, I think it would have had a domino effect and gaming wouldn't be as big worldwide. And Nintendo is a huge reason why gaming is as big as it is today and as successful as it is today. A lot of you are going to see this video too and think that I'm a Nintendo hater. I'm not. I literally just bought a new Nintendo 3DS with a decent stack of games that I was just playing last night in bed. I don't hate Nintendo. I just wish they would learn because I don't want to see them fail because they are the reason why I am so passionate about this industry. They are the reason why I'm sitting in the basement of my house and doing this for a living. They're the reason why I enjoy talking about this every day. They fueled my passion for this industry. And I don't think, if Nintendo fails, I don't think the industry will ever be the same. But it frustrates the shit out of me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it when they screw up, that they just don't seem to learn. They don't learn from their mistakes. They're chasing the ghost. I know that's my term for today, but they're chasing the ghost of the Wii. And the Wii was a fluke. You came out with the Wii at a time where the casual gamers, the casual consumer, they didn't have smartphones, they didn't have tablets yet. It was a different time. And that's never going to come back. That's never going to come back, Nintendo. I wish you would have listened to people like me and Yarrick and a billion other people out there that said just make a conventional system that's powerful, that can compete with your competitors, and then add innovative features later on that people may want. But I have a feeling you didn't listen to anything. We'll find out when the NX is released. Hopefully, I am wrong about everything I'm saying, but I don't think I am, and I'm very concerned for Nintendo's future. This is Richard Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.